Okay, so in this session, we'll be discussing the two concepts, that is ideal transformer and a practical transformer, okay, which is one of the important and I can say an interesting topic related to this transformers. Okay, so now first we'll discuss a topic called as an ideal transformer. Okay, we will discuss something called as an ideal transformer. Now, what is this term ideal transformer? This term itself says that now we know what is this component transformer. So this is an electrical machine, I can say, a static machine, which transfers the electrical power from one electrical circuit to another electrical circuit without changing the frequency. Now, when I'm saying that this transformer, now I want to analyze it in an ideal case. I simply mean to say the parameters which affects, the parameters which defines. Here I just say that those parameters, they are not going to play any role. In simple words, in simple words, as we know that during the construction of a transformer, we said that this transformer is constructed using two basic parts. One, it is a core, okay, magnetic core. One more, it is the windings, right? So we just said that. So in terms of a simple holistic approach, we just drive this magnetic core. Am I right? Then we said that this is made up of silicon steel. So this is my core. Okay. Then on this core, I am having windings. So this we said it's a primary winding, and we are having one more winding. We call it as a secondary winding. Now, if at all, if I want to call this transformer as an ideal transformer, then in that case, I can call this transformer as an ideal transformer provided if I am neglecting the resistance offered by the winding. If at all, if I am neglecting the resistance offered by the winding, neglecting resistance resistance offered by the winding. Second thing, second thing is that there is no leakage flux. 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 What does this mean? It simply says that whatever the flux has been produced by the primary winding, complete flux is linking to the secondary. This is what is the meaning of this. Okay, we'll talk on all the parameters one by one later. So first we shall make the list of the 3 points. First one, we are neglecting the resistance of windings. We are neglecting the resistance of the windings. Second one, we are neglecting, or we are saying that there is no leakage flux. And third thing, we are saying that there is no iron losses in the core. There is no iron losses in the core. There is no iron losses in the core. Okay. Now we'll elaborate on these 3 points. So you need to just remember that if at all if I am calling a transformer as an ideal transformer, it means the windings do not have any resistance. So we are neglecting the resistance of the windings, both primary winding as well as secondary winding. Second thing is that there is no leakage flux. That is, whatever the flux has been produced by primary, complete flux is linked in secondary. And third one, there is no iron losses in the core. That is, when the flux is moving in the core, so there is no any iron loss. Okay. Now we'll elaborate on each individual terms. Okay. Now, what we'll do over here is, to the primary winding, we will excite it with the help of an AC voltage source. So let me say this is my voltage source V1. Okay. Now, when this V1 is excited on the primary side, when this V1 is excited on the primary side, at that time since this part of the circuit is a closed circuit, there will be some current flowing through this circuit. Some current flowing through this circuit. Understanding? And second thing is that we are keeping our secondary side open. We are not applying any load. We are not applying any load. Okay. And next is that since some current is flowing in this primary winding, which is going to magnetize the complete magnetic core. So this current we call it as I mu. This current we call it as I mu. This I mu is said to be as an magnetizing current. This current I mu is said to be as an magnetizing current. I mu is called as an magnetizing current. Magnetizing current. Okay. Then, since some current flows through this winding, what it does, it produces an flux which links with the coil, and hence we'll be getting one EMF which is called as a self-induced EMF, which is called as a self-induced EMF. And some part of the flux it links from primary winding to secondary via the core. It links like this. It moves from the primary to secondary using this magnetic core path, right? So hence it produces one more EMF called as E2, which is called as mutually induced EMF. Okay. Now since on the secondary the load is not connected, the current that flows on the secondary side, it is zero. Since it is open circuit, resistance offered is infinite. So therefore, current in this portion of the loop or this portion of the circuit is zero. Okay. Then, now what is that I need to understand over here is the first three basic points. Neglecting the resistance of the windings. So I know that these windings are made up of a copper material, nothing but a conductor. In simple words, whenever I am having any coil and if I am applying some voltage across it, so this coil will be having some internal resistance. This coil will be having some internal resistance. What we are assuming over here is whatever is the value of the internal resistance of the winding, we are not considering its impact. We are not considering its effect. We are neglecting the internal resistance of these windings because we have studied in our single phase circuits wherein in reality we don't get a pure copper coil. So if at all if this is something a component, if I want to represent its equivalent circuit, then how I can show that? So this copper coil is having some internal resistance which is being represented by small r. Then some winding. Yes or no? So it means this resistance is inevitable. So this resistance will come as a part of this component, as a resistance of this component. But now in the ideal case, we are assuming this resistance is zero. So this resistance is not there. This resistance is zero. Okay. So here we are neglecting the resistance of the windings. Resistance of both primary winding as well as secondary winding. Second thing, what we are assuming over here is, we are assuming that whatever the flux is being produced by the primary winding, complete flux is linking on the secondary. Complete flux is linking on to the secondary. Okay, and third one is that we'll study about these losses and all in details. So prior to which I can simply say that in case of this iron loss, nothing but what? Since your core is made up of a magnetic material called as silicon steel. So when this flux moves from one node to another node in the circuit, okay, from one node to another node in the circuit, so there occurs iron loss. There occurs an iron loss. But here, in ideal case, we are assuming that there is no iron loss in the core. Iron loss in the core is zero. Now, in these cases where we are neglecting the internal resistance, we are assuming there is no leakage flux, we are assuming there is no iron losses. In simple words, I can say that efficiency of my transformer will be 100% because my input will be equal to output, or I can say that the power input will be equal to power output. So since power input will be equal to power output, the efficiency of my transformer will be 100%. But you need to remember that this is just an hypothetical case. This is just an hypothetical case. This cannot be true in reality because a smallest of the smallest conductor is going to offer some amount of resistance. It is going to offer some amount of resistance. Is it clear? Okay. Then next, now we'll develop the phasor diagram for this particular arrangement. Okay. I'll keep this circuit as a reference for you, and we'll develop the phasor diagram for this circuit. Now, whenever we are considering any parameter as a reference, so what we have to do over here is we have to consider common parameter between the two circuits as a reference. We have to consider common parameter as reference between the two circuits. So if you see these two circuits, which is the common parameter? A parameter which is same or which is having its presence, its impact on both primary winding as well as on the secondary winding. Which is the parameter? Yes, please answer me in a group chat. Flux. Okay, very good. Good, Vaibhavi. You are right. As well as Subhash. As the people are able to say that flux is a parameter which is common to both the primary winding and the secondary winding. So I can simply say over here that I have to consider flux as my reference parameter. Okay. Now, so when this, let me say that initially I am going to apply this AC voltage source onto the primary winding. So when I apply this AC voltage source to primary winding, what happens? First, I get this current I mu in the circuit. Am I right? So this I mu current, when it flows through the winding, at that time it produces this flux phi. Now, during our interaction also several times we have said that the direction of the flux is dependent on direction of the current flow, and also magnitude of this I mu decides what is magnitude of this flux. I simply mean to say my I mu is directly proportional to phi. If magnitude of I mu is high, flux is more. Understanding? The direction in which I mu is flowing, how this current is flowing, depending upon that, even the flux also moves in the same direction. Understanding? So it means I can simply say that my I mu will be in phase, I mu will be in phase with this flux phi. Next, now I want to denote how is my supply voltage. This supply voltage, as you know that it is, if I just forget about it as a transformer, if I just see it as a simple coil which is being excited by an AC voltage source V, and if I say that I is a current that flows through the copper coil, okay, copper coil, then what's the relation now? How I should be able to represent my voltage on this phasor diagram? Whether it should be leading or it should be lagging? Whether I should draw my voltage vector leading or I should draw my voltage vector lagging? How I should draw it? Yes, please answer me in the group chat. Leading. Good. Good, Imran. So I need to have my voltage vector leading. Okay, because you have to remember you are taking current as a reference. You are considering current as a reference. Understanding? So therefore, I can simply say that I will be getting this at an angle of 90 degree. Then next comes the concept for the potential of E1 and E2, where I know that E1 is a self-induced EMF, E2 is a mutual induced EMF. Both are voltages. Do you agree? EMF E1, EMF E2. So both are voltages. They are having SI units of volts. They are having SI units of volts. We said one thing during the operation of this transformer. The polarity of your induced EMF will be in phase opposition to the supply voltage. The polarity of your induced EMF will be in phase opposition to your supply voltage. So what does this mean? So we had drawn one waveform, I hope you remember it, wherein we said that if this is my supply voltage, V1, how will be my induced EMF? Induced EMF will be in phase opposition. My induced EMF will be in phase opposition. So if my supply voltage is having a positive swing, at the same time, induced EMF will be having a negative swing. When the supply voltage is having a negative swing, at that time, my induced EMF will be having a positive swing. Now, so it simply says now, I need to represent my vector E1 and vector E2. I need to represent a vector E1 and vector E2 in phase opposition to V1. It should stand in phase opposition to V1. So in that case, how I have to draw it? Somewhat like this. So let me say this is my E1. Okay. Now, I want you people to understand this concept. What is this E1? It is induced EMF. It is the induced EMF. You people have written the equation for that also, saying that E1 is equals to minus N d phi by dt minus N1 to be more specific. In a similar manner, how we have written the equation for E2? E2 is equals to minus N2 d phi by dt. Am I right? Yes. So what is E1? It is an self-induced EMF which is being given by minus of number of turns on the primary into rate of change of flux. E2, which is a mutual induced EMF, is been given by minus of number of turns on the secondary into rate of change of flux. So it simply says now E1 is, so d phi by dt is common in both the equation. This implies E1 is dependent on number of turns. Similarly, E2 is dependent on number of turns on the secondary. Now, in order to represent my E1 and E2, if number of turns on the primary and secondary, if both are same, so wherein it is an isolation transformer, so in that case, E1 will be equal to E2. Am I right? If at all it is a case of a step-up transformer where number of turns on the secondary is greater, N2 is greater than N1. When N2 is greater than N1, so at that time I'll be having my E2 little bit of higher magnitude than compared to E1. Understanding? If at all, if my N2 is less than N1, so at that time my E2 will be prior. Okay, so in all the textbooks you will get an example where E1 is shown here, E2 is shown here. It means they are considering a step-up transformer. So in case of step-up transformer, since N2 is greater than N1, we should get E2 greater than E1. Understanding? Okay. Now, next, if you observe your circuit arrangement, then how best you can represent it now? So this is your E2. Now, since this is open circuit, what will be this voltage? So this voltage we call it as terminal voltage or a load voltage V2. So this terminal voltage or a load voltage V2 is same as that of the E2. So in that case, I can simply represent my E2 is equals to V2. E2 is equals to V2. Understanding? This is how is the phasor diagram for ideal transformer on no load. So this is the Phasor diagram for ideal transformer on no load. Ideal transformer on no load condition. Ideal transformer on no load condition. Is it clear to you? Any doubt? Yes, I was having one question over there which I just saw, wherein question was about what are these magnetic losses. Okay, so normally what happens is, so let me say, so in case of your electrical circuits, you'll be having two types of circuits. One is an electric circuits, one more is called as magnetic circuits. Okay, one is called as electric circuits, one more is called as the magnetic circuits. Now in electric circuits, what happens? So in case of electric circuits, you'll be getting a resistance, a voltage source, okay, then a value of current I which is flowing through the circuit, right? So here what is flowing? I is flowing. But in case of magnetic circuits, what is the component which is moving from one circuit to another circuit? It is flux phi. So we say that if I is the current which is going to flow in the electric circuit, then flux phi is the parameter which moves in the magnetic circuit, linking one component to another component. So resistance is what it is called as a property of a material, okay, which opposes the flow of current. It's a property of material which opposes the flow of current. In a similar manner, in magnetic circuits, we are having reluctance R. Okay, it's not resistance, it is reluctance. Reluctance is what? It is similar to that of the resistance in electric circuits. What it does? It is going to offer the resistance for the flow of flux. Resistance, here reluctance is a parameter, or it is the property of the material which opposes for the flow of the flux. Now as this current I flows to this resistance, what happens? There occurs a loss. What loss? We say that it's a loss in terms of heat. So the power being dissipated by this particular component P is being given by I square R. So this we call it as copper loss. This we call it as copper loss. Understanding? Similarly, when this flux phi moves through a magnetic material, at that time we'll be getting two types of losses. One is eddy current loss, one more it is hysteresis loss. So these two loss together we call it as a magnetic loss. That is a loss which is seen in the magnetic component, or a loss which is being incurred because of the magnetic property of that material. Understanding? So whenever while selecting the magnetic element to build my core of the transformer, what we will be doing is we'll be viewing the BH curve of each magnetic material. We will be viewing the BH curve of each magnetic material. So let me say this is the magnetic material 1, M1. Okay. Now I am having a BH curve. What like this. So this curve gives me a response like this. So this is one BH curve. Magnetic material 2. Again I am having one more BH curve. Okay. Okay. So this is my second BH curve. Now, intentionally I have drawn the area more here and here the area less. Now you are having two magnetic materials, M1 and M2, which I have to select. So this BH curve gives me an input, gives me a data, which particular magnetic material has to be used to build the core. Now, area under this curve gives me the information about magnetic loss. Okay. So if you see, if I use magnetic material 1, in that case the losses will be more. the losses will be more. If I use this kind of a material, if I use material M1, then this is the amount of loss which occurs. So if losses are more, then what is about the efficiency? The efficiency will be less. So if at all, if I use magnetic material 2 at that time, so since area under the curve is less, so what does it indicate? It indicates that losses will be less. So if losses are less, what about the efficiency? Efficiency will be higher. Understanding? So this is how I will be selecting which particular magnetic or which magnetic element or which magnetic I can say that material I have to use in order to build the core of my transformer. Okay, is it clear to you? This one, Omar Fazal, is your question clear now? Okay, fine. So after interacting this particular topic, now we will go for the concept which is called as a practical transformer. Okay. So prior to which I would like to know that whether the concept of ideal transformer is clear to you. So we say that a transformer to be an ideal transformer provided we implement the three conditions on transformer stating there is no resistance of the windings, so we are going to neglect the resistance of both primary winding as well as secondary winding. Second thing, there is no leakage flux. Third thing, there are no iron losses in the core. There are no iron losses in the core. Okay. Under these conditions, I can treat my transformer to be an ideal transformer. Okay. Now, next is that we'll go for the next concept. It's practical transformer. Practical transformer. So this is a transformer which you witness it in day-to-day life. Okay. So the practical transformer is one in which there exists the winding resistance. There exists winding resistance. There exists winding resistance. Second thing, there are iron losses in the core. There are iron losses in the core. So iron losses also exist. Third thing, there will be a leakage flux. So we will be considering the effect of leakage flux. We'll be considering the effect of leakage flux. Okay. So whenever I am calling a transformer as a practical transformer, then at that time I'll be following these or I'll be remembering these three particular conditions. Wherein it says that the resistance, the winding, they are going to offer some amount of resistance, both the primary winding as well as the secondary winding. Then iron losses do exist. Iron losses do exist in the core. Iron losses do exist in the core. Then next is third one. There exists some leakage flux in the transformer. Okay. So now, so we'll build once again the circuit. Okay, we'll build once again the circuit and we'll try to understand what is this concept about. Okay. Now, so first I'll draw the simple diagram for that, and then we'll make the changes in the diagram as per our statements. So now let me say that I'll be having first the magnetic core, which is made up of a silicon steel. So this is the magnetic core. Okay, so these are my limbs. So on the limbs, I'm having my windings, a primary winding and the secondary winding. Okay, on the primary winding, I'll be providing the supply voltage V1, and on the secondary, now I'm going to consider the load. So this is the load onto my secondary. Okay, now what we'll do over here is the same circuit will try to make it something different than that of the ideal case. If not, we will feel that sir, ideal case and practical case almost the diagrams are matching. Okay. Now we'll draw the or make the changes into this particular representation. Okay. Now let me draw once again my core. Okay. Then so this is my winding. Okay. Now the first thing that we said was winding resistance is included. Winding resistance is included both on the primary side as well as on the secondary side. What does this mean? It means that whatever winding you have wounded on the limbs of a transformer, so this is not a pure copper coil. It is having some internal resistance. So that internal resistance is shown in this circle. Understanding? So this R1, we show it with the capital R only. However, we know that whenever it is internal resistance, you have to show it by small r. But it's a trend or a tendency to denote it by capital R1. So you should not feel that I am connecting some external resistance. No. So this R1 is indicating what? This R1 is indicating the internal resistance of this winding. Similarly, this R2 is indicating the internal resistance of the secondary winding. Okay, then what we said here during the discussion of the I can say ideal transformer, we said that whenever a voltage is applied across the primary winding, at that time some current I flows to that, and whatever the flux is being produced by primary, complete flux, the entire flux links from primary to secondary. This is what we assume. Am I right? So here what we did, we neglected the concept of leakage flux. But in reality, this will not happen. So what is going to happen is, in reality, so whenever I apply some voltage, some potential on the primary side, so because of this closed loop, some current I flows to the circuit. Some current I flows to a circuit. So this current I, when it flows through a winding, first what it does, it produces a flux which is linking itself. Which is linking itself. So this is called as a leakage flux. So we denote it by phi L1. What is phi L1? It is the leakage flux seen on primary. Phi L1 indicates a leakage flux seen on primary. Then part of the flux, what we call it as a working flux, it links from primary winding to secondary winding. So this is your working flux, phi W. And since I'll be having the load onto my secondary, so as I know that whenever the flux linkage with the coil changes, so there induces an EMF. There induces an EMF, which is called as EL1. What is EL1 now? It is a induced EMF because of leakage flux. EL1, not E1. E1 is different. EL1 is different. EL1 is the leakage flux or the induced EMF because of the leakage flux. Understanding? Similarly, so since this E2 will be on the secondary side, so since again this is a closed circuit now, some current I2 will be flowing. So because of this current I2, it produces one more flux which links with itself. So this is said to be as an phi L2. So this phi L2 is called as leakage flux which is seen on secondary. A leakage flux which is seen on secondary. So this leakage flux phi L2, it produces one more leakage EMF which is called as EL2. EL2. So this EL2 stands for an induced EMF because of the leakage flux on the secondary. So phi L1 what it does? It produces EL1. Phi L2 produces what? EL2. Understanding? Now, what is the magnitude of this EL1 and EL2? The magnitude of EL1 and EL2 is being given by, it is I1, the primary current that is flowing on the primary side, into the reactance offered by the winding. Into reactance offered by the winding. What is EL2? EL2 is being given by current that flows through the winding is I2 into the reactance of this winding. So that is nothing but the X2. Understanding? Is it clear? Okay. So now we are able to understand that. So because of the leakage flux phi L1 and phi L2, we are getting the leakage EMF as phi EL1 and EL2, where EL1 is been given by I1 into X1 and EL2 is been given by I2 into the X2. Okay.